As the flow of refugees into Europe continues unabated, Scandinavian countries are giving them the cold shoulder. Norway has posted this advertisement in the newspaper The Afghanistan Times Daily, announcing tougher regulations for asylum seekers. Among other things, it warns that those denied asylum may be returned by force. The idea is nothing new, though. In September, Denmark did the same thing in a Lebanese newspaper. It highlighted how migrants will have problems getting permanent residency and welfare in the country. And Sweden is also toughening up its stance on refugees, introducing a U-turn in its open-door policy this week. The reversal appeared too much to handle for the country's deputy PM, who broke down in tears when announcing the new measures.
Bästa sättet att hjälpa mina miljöpartistiska kommunalråd är att ändå göra någonting.
So emotions are clearly running high in Sweden. In recent years, tens of thousands of refugees have arrived in the country. In 2012, Sweden ranked third behind only Germany and France in the number of people seeking asylum there. And last year, it registered the highest per capita number of refugees among all developed nations. That's provoking some strong reaction from the public. The anti-immigration Sweden Democrats Party is now the third largest force in parliament. They sent out their own warning to refugees recently, highlighting some problems they may face upon arrival. Europe's open border refugee policy has reportedly been mocked by the mastermind of the attacks in Paris. The extremist is said to have boasted of how easily he got inside France disguised as an asylum seeker. Read more on RT.com. And the focus of a recent EU decision has left many across Europe baffled. The story ahead here on RT International.
What do you think about sanctions?
Easy right or wrong, but I definitely think sanctions are better than conflict.
You don't perform for diplomatic reasons. You perform for humanitarian ways.
I'm talking obviously about Edward Snowden.
I believe he's a hero. I believe he's coming directly from his heart.
Talk about double standards.
Double standard that there is in Washington.
Russia is responsible for fueling this war.
Assad's war against his own people helped to fuel the rise of ISIL.
By standing up for our values around the world, that is the way that we will keep our own people safe.
How do you get away with such blatant double standards?
We occasionally have to twist the arms of countries that wouldn't do what we need them to do.
There you have it. Simple.
Hello again. Tasers, the electric shock weapons widely used by law enforcement right around the world, are considered non-lethal. But that's now being challenged following a number of deaths. Data from the US alone shows there have been 47 such fatalities in 2015. Here are some of those incidents. In February, Natasha McKenna was tasered 4 times for being non-compliant with prison guards. The weapon was found to have played a role in her death, prompting the restriction of its use in jail. The death of 33-year-old David Lynch was ruled as homicide. He was tasered in connection with a traffic accident. The medical examiner cited electric shock weapon discharge as a significant factor. in his death. Well, in another case, 39-year-old Calvin Reed went into cardiac arrest after he was tasered at least 3 times. The issue of taser use is the subject of a documentary investigation.
This is what the tobacco industry relied on for decades. You can't prove tobacco causes cancer.
It was pretty clear to me that this was taser-induced cardiac arrest.
Nobody told us that these were going to kill people.
Taser's saving lives. That's the business that we're in. We're protecting the truth and we're protecting lives.
They're a very strange company. There's something really off about them.
Well, to understand the impact of the weapon, let's just see how it actually works. It shoots with 2 gas-propelled darts at a velocity of around 60 meters per second. They penetrate the subject's skin or clothing. It then delivers 19 shocks a second for 5 seconds, but the time limit can be bypassed if necessary, prolonging the shocks until the battery dies. The makers claim the device poses no danger.
I want to start by addressing a couple of the questions we've been receiving over email. The first one is, are chest hits with the taser dangerous? And the answer to that is definitively no. So many people have said, okay, if the probability is so low, why does taser have to warn about this? Biggest reason here, in my mind, is risk management and avoiding the controversy.
Well, the company has also described the documentary as biased. We spoke to its director to find out why he decided to raise the issue in the first place.
There is a risk that people can die. Officers ended up killing people in situations where their lives should have never been put in jeopardy. And that was the disconnect. The public really sees this weapon as an alternative to deadly force. Police officers have been trained on this weapon as something that's efficient to end any confrontation, not just violent ones. And then ultimately, because there is a small chance that someone can die, you end up with people who are killed in scenarios they never should have been put in the first place.
Modern times and the massive issues facing Europe demand careful and insightful decision-making from the continent's leaders. But as RT's Peter Oliver reports, their focus sometimes leaves people bewildered.
Over the years, EU lawmakers have come in for criticism for what's being called bonkers Brussels bureaucracy by some. We were told we can no longer have refillable olive oil bottles in restaurants. We were also told there would be laws of the size and shape of things like bananas. Well, now it's the turn of the candle, after EU governments voted 27-1 in favour of putting forward what is essentially a manual for how to use them, essentially telling us all that fire is a fire hazard.
As we enter into the Christmas period, many a candle set to be lit across Europe. So let's have a look at what's contained in this new legislation. It says that a candle must remain stable during burning, that the risks of potential burns to a person should be kept to a minimum, try not to touch the hot orange end then, soot emissions should also be kept down, and the design should not play down any potential risks, whatever that means. We asked the people on the streets of Berlin, with Europe in a constant cycle of crisis, it seems, at the moment, is this the right thing for lawmakers to be concentrating on?
I'm sure there's bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, I'm sure there's bigger issues to think about than candles throughout the world, actually, not just Brussels.
Is this really what our lawmakers should be focusing on right now?
Not really, no. I don't think so. But no. That's the basic answer, no.
Possibly not. I think there are probably other things they could advise us on. So, yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah.
Fire safety campaigners and candle manufacturers have backed the move. However, to most other Europeans, it seems like this is hardly the brightest idea that Brussels has had. Peter Oliver, RT, Berlin.
Up next, the financial headlines are pushed and probed. It's time for Boom Bust.